Welcome to the ultimate session of this conference. It's a tradition in the ePic conference from the beginning that the last session is about discussing what happened during the conference and also make plans for the futures. Plural, could be multiple futures. So we'll start by discussing what happened on the first day with the hackathon and also the refugee badges. And then we will discuss the Bologna Open Recognition Declaration. And we would like to have an open discussion about the Open Recognition Declaration.
Nate. Excellent. Thank you, Serge. Thank you, Serge, for inviting me to this conference and for inviting all of the participants who are here. I found our workshop on Wednesday to be one of the most productive large conversations a group has had around the future of open badges of the entire year. And so I hope that the people who participate in that event, which I'll describe a little of the outcome and summarize for us all, had the same feeling that around their tables they were able to realize that participation in an open standard like open badges comes when everyone builds understanding together about what the possibilities are and then works together to define the use cases so that many different perspectives are served. And we can build badge systems that work for higher ed institutions, but also to recognize the achievements of people who are new to our societies, who are joining us and have very few connections to us personally so far. So I'll talk a little bit about the work that people got done in the hackathon session, and but overall the feeling that I got was that there was a great sense of collaboration and shared purpose and of recognizing the possibilities that hold for technical difficulties, recognizing the possibilities that we can build together. So what we did on Wednesday is we gathered in this room, we filled the room up with people who are interested in participating in building the future of badges. In the morning, we took a look at the issues that people had already identified that they would like to improve in the specification. The work of the Badge Alliance Standard Working Group toward a 2.0 spec is centered around these use cases that we developed over the first half of this year, the prototypes and issues that we're working together on in GitHub, and then the ideas that we have started to bring together. We didn't have a very good internet connection, so the roll call is actually represented by many more people who did not have an internet access at the time and couldn't add their name to the pad. But if you participated and you want to be recognized in this pad, which will live on as a record of what we did, feel free to log into the URL, which is bit.ly/hackopenbadges, and you can add your name to that at any time. I was very impressed by the ideas that people had of the things that they cared about in the open badges world that they wanted to improve, and the idea that we could brainstormed very quickly many ideas for what was needed to build in the open badges space, and then we were able to form groups around those ideas. Some of them had a large cohort of interest, like the idea of the future of badges through blockchains, talking about the consequences of combining these technologies of open badges and blockchains. And also the ideas on issue 5 and issue 6 here of connecting badges to the skills that they represent in what we call the real world, in the communities that we're part of. Figuring out ways to organize that connection. And we had some great folks who are involved in those discussions who are actually building that future. And so hearing the voices of everyone and building that shared understanding was very helpful for me, who builds a platform in open badges, and the other representatives are in that role in the room. So realize that as you contribute to these discussions, you actually are helping build the future of badge implementations that will serve your organizations and your communities. We had several people gather around the idea of dynamic badge images using SVG. And Carrie and Richard led the discussion on that topic. And then Carrie noted to me earlier that a large number of people had heard her talk about it and had wanted to join that discussion and actually have use cases where they would like to go and implement that idea in their systems. And so Carrie requested that we have a spot in this Etherpad. If you'd like to connect with her in the future about making this a real idea, feel free to add your contact information. So let me summarize really quickly a couple of the user stories that came out of this. The first one is that project that Carrie and Richard led, which is dynamic badges images with SVG, where we can use algorithms to generate the symbolic image of a badge that changes and evolves as the information in the badge is updated through ideas like endorsement, where it starts out with that kernel of the initial badge recognized by the issuer, and then generates it. You can generate an image using Carrie's algorithm to be a little symbolic representation of that, maybe in just sort of pixel art, algorithmic art. But then as the badge image gets, or badges gets additional endorsements, the art may change, and you can regenerate with new information to seed that with a more complex picture. So I'll be looking forward to sharing some prototypes, because Carrie's going to go forward and build this thing for real in the next several weeks. And so she'll have a little service where you can actually do this with your own badges. So let me read one select user story for that case to get you an idea of what was happening here. So a teacher could offer a badge for a skill and say, there are multiple ways to earn this badge. You can do the basic or go the extra mile and create something more advanced. The advanced badge would look the same as the basic badge, but with embellishments. This could be represented as one rubric with different sections of criteria. Do this for level 1 and then add evidence of for this criteria for level 2. And the badge management system could show it as one badge comprised of levels rather than multiple discrete badges, allowing the earner to choose how extensive to go in their learning. So some really interesting ideas around this. Also, you can generate things like QR codes that can link back. So another project that we had was the idea of instant endorsement, and thank you, Bruce, for contributing the user stories to the Etherpad here. The idea there is to create a service where you can add your endorsement to a badge very easily and create a portable record of that endorsement, almost effortlessly. And Serge brought that idea to us, and then in a table along with Bruce and others, combined those ideas into these user stories. And so I'll read one example from that as well. The first story, a local stakeholder would like to endorse the work of a particular issuer represented by a broad set of different badge classes that belong to a particular program. All badge classes within this program would inherit this endorsement, including ones not in existence at the time of the endorsement. And thank you to Lymanus for telling this story. A third project that we worked on was 2 tables. We had 2 tables full of people interested in this project, several different perspectives, and so I'll provide some of those perspectives. Was, as I mentioned, organizing badges and filtering them and understanding them by how they relate to skills and values in learning communities that already exist. So summarizing those ideas, the problems, as I read them, each issuer can use their own granular framework, but still have abilities to understand the connections between the frameworks used by multiple issuers. We can do this through things like tagging, but also other more advanced techniques. And then, we can answer questions like, do 2 badges that are using different frameworks need to match on the level of the badge or on the level of the framework? So a couple stories from this work, and I think there probably is even more that we could add to this pad around this idea as well. The first story, like an issuer wants to give an update suggestion to an aligned dynamics framework. Or, from a management perspective, being able to align one's own internal frameworks used in one institution or organization to existing frameworks that may have a broader scope of impact. So, I'm glad that people made a lot of connections on those tables around those ideas. I think that we really need to pursue solutions to actually turn this into products over the coming year. And so great examples from the Acclaim platform, mapping badges to libraries of skills that are validated by employers all around the world. In some of my own projects, I'm collaborating with different teams to build the idea of learning pathways, so some new open data standards that parallel open badges in being able to describe frameworks and the skills that make them up that are compatible with many different competency description languages around the world. Project 8 had a couple, and they combined in a table also considering some use cases from idea number 9. So this table in the back had considered, what can we do to make digital badges feel more valuable than just a sticker or, a simple token of recognition. And then also exploring how new, more meaningful workflows that could be added to the badges system could modify or enhance the value perceived by learners and also consumers of badges. So a couple user stories from that group really emphasized how we can add new technologies like endorsement to the ecosystem, but also new workflows for how users interact within a badge system to give meaning to those badges that are enhanced from the existing systems. So for example, as a learner, I would like my badges to be endorsed by an employer and be of external relevance. Understand how this badge connects back to the real world and the institutions in it, which similar to the project above, connecting to the skills understood in the real world. Second story there, as a learner, I would like to group and connect my badges through a recognized taxonomy. So again, a great connection between these tables. So I could go on for much more about, more of the specific achievements that we gained during that session, but I just wanted to stop there and take a moment for all of us to recognize the contribution that we can all make together through, combining in this space and then, asynchronously and online through the standardization communities going forward into the next year. We're going to be prototyping building out the 2.0 specification recommendation over the next 2 months, finalizing that by the end of December is on our roadmap, and then going into a process of rolling that out into the real world over the first couple months of 2017. So let's take a moment really quick to give ourselves a round of applause and give each other a round of applause for all the contributions that we made to hacking open badges. Right, thank you. And now I have one other announcement to share, just on that idea of recognizing the fact that all of us have an ability to contribute to these open specifications that guide our ecosystem. The Badge Alliance is currently organizing its efforts to build the 2.0 specification through our own standard working group. And we have open calls every 2 weeks. We'll probably add an extra one to the schedule next week. So pay attention to the calendar on badgealliance.org if you want to participate in those calls and continue this work of defining this 2.0 specification between now and December. And I'm also happy to announce that we are getting new investments in our ecosystem over the coming months and in 2017. And we're going to be especially getting an investment from IMS Global, who will be expanding their involvement in the Open Badges specification and really taking it to the market as a global standard, recognized all around the world, providing distributed funding through their membership to support this effort, and really being able to enhance the work that we've been doing and the usability, quality, and ability for people to use open badges as a means to recognize achievements all around the world. So stay tuned, I think, in just a couple hours for some more details, going out through all sorts of social media channels, including the Open Badges hashtag on Twitter, for announcements from IMS on their increased investment in the Open Badges community. And with that, I'll turn it over to Don to describe a little bit about the activities from Wednesday in the other room and the Bologna Open Recognition Declaration.